This girl has nothing. No family names, no money, no class. My son deserves better.
The moment Marcus's mother grabbed the microphone at the wedding reception, she knew her life was about to change forever. She looked the bride dead in the eyes in front of 200 guests and said, "This girl has nothing. No family names, no money, no class. My son deserves better." She didn't cry. She didn't leave. She smiled, and she made her a silent promise. 5 years later, she walked into the boardroom of Vanthorpe Enterprises, the company her family built for 3 generations, and she sat at the head of the table. "Because I owned it." The microphone feedback cut through the ballroom like a blade. 200 guests turned in unison. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Champagne glasses froze halfway to waiting lips. Every conversation died at once, the way sound dies before a storm. Patricia Vanthorpe stood at the front of the room. She wore a cream Chanel suit that cost more than 3 months of most people's rent. She held the microphone with the easy confidence of a woman who had never once been denied a room's attention, and she smiled the kind of smile that never quite reaches the eyes. At the head table, Amara Osei-Mensah sat perfectly still. Her wedding gown ivory silk she had sewn herself, alone at her kitchen table, at 2 in the morning, after 3 bridal boutiques had quoted her figures she refused to pay, caught the chandelier light and held it. She did not flinch. She did not look away. She watched her mother-in-law lift the microphone and waited. Beside her, Marcus Vanthorpe felt his new wife's hand find his under the tablecloth. Her fingers were calm, steady. It was the stillness that should have warned everyone in that room what was coming. It warned no one. Patricia let the silence build. She had always understood theater. Marcus was raised to carry the Vanthorpe name with dignity. He attended Oxford. He built his career from the foundation this family gave him. And now, she paused. The pause of someone who has rehearsed. He has chosen to marry a girl with no family name worth mentioning, no education beyond a state college, no assets, no connections. A poor black woman who showed up to our world with nothing but a pretty face and ambition she has no right to. Someone gasped. Claudette, Marcus's aunt, pressed her hand to her mouth. A few chairs scraped. A child at the back table asked her mother a question in a loud whisper and was hushed. "I love my son, which is why I am asking him, begging him to reconsider before he ties himself to someone who will drag the Vanthorpe name into the gutter." Patricia set the microphone down gently on the table, like a woman who had done what needed doing. Marcus was on his feet before the feedback even settled, his chair scraping back hard, his face a weather system Amara had never seen on him before. "Marcus, mother, sit down, right now." But Amara's hand found his arm. She rose slowly beside him unhurried, deliberate and smoothed the front of her gown. Then she reached across the table and picked up her champagne glass. She looked at Patricia Vanthorpe for a long moment. The room held its breath. "Amara, thank you for your honesty, Patricia. I will remember this moment for the rest of my life. I promise you that." She raised her glass to the room. "Amara, to new beginnings." For one suspended second, nobody moved. Then Darnell, Marcus's best man, a broad-shouldered man with a laugh that could fill a stadium, stood up and raised his glass. Then Claudette, her eyes still wet. Then the table by the window, then the next. One by one, like a slow tide coming in, 200 people rose to their feet and drank. Patricia sat back down, alone at her table, a woman surrounded by people and utterly, completely isolated. Amara set her glass down without trembling. She filed away every detail of that moment with the precision of someone who understood that pain, properly stored, could be converted into something far more useful than tears. She would need it, for fuel. The years that followed were not quiet, but Amara moved through them quietly. In the first year of the marriage, Patricia cut Marcus's allowance from the family trust. In the second, she leveraged her relationship with his uncle to have Marcus removed from the board of Vanthorpe Enterprises, the luxury property development company her late husband had built across 3 continents. In the third year, she began telling a carefully curated version of her son's marriage to anyone who would listen. At charity galas, through whispered asides to journalists, in the deliberate addressing of family invitations to Marcus Vanthorpe alone, never to Marcus and Amara. Marcus fought her at every... He was not a passive man, and he loved his wife with a fierceness that did not diminish. But Amara watched the toll accumulate, the tired set of his jaw at dinner, the long silences after phone calls from his mother, the way he sometimes lay awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, thinking she was asleep. She was never asleep. She was working. Amara had built a boutique financial consultancy from a single laptop and 12 years of watching money move through the hands of people who didn't understand it. Her first client was a restaurant owner in Brixton who had taken a predatory loan and was 90 days from losing everything. She restructured his debt, renegotiated his terms, and saved his business. He referred her to 2 others, then 4, then 12. By the end of year 3, she had a team of 6 analysts and offices in London and Atlanta. By year 4, her firm Meridian Advisory Group held contracts with 3 publicly traded companies and a reputation in financial circles for being the quietest and most effective restructuring operation in the market. And through all of it, she had been watching Vanthorpe Enterprises with the careful attention of someone who already knew how the story ended. Patricia was a socialite, not a strategist. After her husband's death, she had handed operational control to her brother-in-law, Gerald, a man whose financial instincts were as sharp as a butter knife. Under Gerald's stewardship, the company's flagship London development had stalled 18 months behind schedule. 2 major institutional investors had quietly withdrawn. The board was fractured along family lines, and the lead lender had begun asking questions that Gerald answered with expensive lunches and vague reassurances. Amara had been building a relationship with that lender for 14 months, not as Marcus's wife. As Amara Osei-Mensah, CEO of Meridian Advisory Group, she had presented them with a restructuring proposal, so detailed, so methodically constructed, that their risk committee had approved it without a single dissenting vote. The proposal required a controlling stake in Vanthorpe Enterprises, which Amara had been quietly acquiring through 3 separate shell companies across 22 months without anyone in the Vanthorpe family knowing her name was attached to a single share. The call came on a Tuesday morning in March, 5 years and 4 months after the wedding. Gerald rang Marcus first. He always underestimated the women in that family. Marcus listened for 40 seconds, then walked into the kitchen and handed the phone to Amara without a word. "Gerald, there seems to be some confusion about the shareholding structure. We've had notification from 3 separate investment vehicles that together they hold 53% of Vanthorpe Enterprises. And apparently they all trace back to a single beneficial owner." Amara set down her coffee cup. "Amara, that's correct, Gerald. Gerald, and that owner is..." "Amara, me." The silence that followed had a texture to it. The texture of a very large man realizing the floor beneath him is not floor. "Gerald, that's not possible. Patricia will..." "Amara. Patricia will what?" He had no answer. "I'll be at the board meeting Thursday morning. Please ensure there's a chair at the head of the table, and do let Patricia know I'd like her present. It would mean a great deal to me." She ended the call and set the phone on the counter. Marcus was leaning in the kitchen doorway, watching her with an expression she had never seen on him before, something between awe and the particular pride of a man who realizes he had never fully understood who he married. "Marcus, you never told me." "Amara, I know." "Marcus, how long?" 2 years of acquisition, 14 months with the lender, 5 years of everything else. He crossed the kitchen and held her face in both hands. "Marcus, she humiliated you in front of everyone we knew." "Amara, and you turned it into this." "Amara, I told her I would remember that moment. I always keep my promises." The board meeting was held in the glass-walled conference room on the 14th floor of Vanthorpe's Canary Wharf offices. Amara arrived 7 minutes early and sat at the head of the table. Patricia Vanthorpe walked in at 9 o'clock sharp, in a navy suit this time, her hair perfect, her posture the posture of a woman who owned every room she entered. She stopped when she saw Amara, completely, as though someone had reached inside her chest and stilled the mechanism. "Patricia, what is she doing in that chair?" The board members looked at their documents. Gerald examined a spot on the wall. Nobody spoke. Amara gestured to the chair on her immediate left, the seat that had always belonged to the company's second-largest shareholder. "Amara, please sit down, Patricia. We have a great deal to discuss. And I think, after everything, you've earned the right to hear it directly from me." Patricia sat. For the first time in 63 years, She had no idea what came next. Amara opened her folder and began. The restructuring took 60 days from start to sign documentation. Amara brought in 2 of Meridian's senior consultants. They cleared the outstanding debt, restarted the stalled London development under a new construction firm, replaced Gerald with a CEO who had actually built something before, and restored the confidence of the institutional investors who had been quietly backing toward the exit for 18 months. Vanthorpe Enterprises did not merely survive. Within the following year, it was performing at levels the company had not seen since the founder's final decade. Patricia attended every board meeting, her minority stake and her non-executive directorship enshrined in the Articles of Association required it. She sat across the table from her daughter-in-law twice a month and watched the company her husband had built flourish under the management of the woman she had tried to destroy at her own wedding. She never apologized, not directly, not in words. What arrived instead, on a Friday afternoon 6 months into the new structure, was a letter. 3 pages, handwritten on Vanthorpe Estate stationery, in Patricia's sharp and slanted script. No formal apology. Patricia was not built for those. But something rarer, an accounting. A woman sitting alone in a large house, writing down every place she had gone wrong, and refusing to flinch from the list. She wrote that she had been afraid, that she had looked at Amara and seen someone who did not need Marcus the way Patricia had needed her husband, completely, vulnerably, desperately, and that it had frightened her in ways she hadn't known how to name. She had confused Amara's self-sufficiency for coldness, her ambition for threat, her composure for arrogance. She wrote in the final paragraph 3 words that did not come easily to her. I was wrong. Amara read the letter twice. She folded it along its original creases. She placed it in the same drawer where she kept the pressed flower from her wedding bouquet and the thread from the gown she had sewn herself. She did not respond for 3 weeks. Then she called Patricia and asked if she would like to have lunch. There was a pause on the line, long enough to mean something. Patricia, yes, I would like that. They were not close, Amara and Patricia. They would probably never be close. There are certain words that, once released into a room full of witnesses, do not fully take themselves back. The scar tissue is there, even when the wound has healed. Patricia moved around her daughter-in-law with a carefulness she had never shown anyone before. Amara was honest with her mother-in-law in a way she had never been permitted to be, but they were something that did not have a clean name but functioned, in the way that imperfect things can function when the people involved decide that functioning matters more than pride. Marcus held both their hands at Christmas dinner and pretended not to notice that they were both trying, which was, perhaps, its own kind of grace. As for the eviction notice in this story's title that belongs to Gerald, during the initial audit of Vanthorpe Enterprises, Amara's team discovered that Gerald had been operating a private consulting business from a suite in the company's Mayfair building, using company administrative resources on the company's electricity account, billed to the company's maintenance line. He had been doing it for 4 years. Amara did not press charges. She was not interested in spectacle. She simply terminated the lease, prepared the appropriate notice, and had it hand-delivered to Gerald's office on a Monday morning. He vacated within 30 days. His name has not appeared in Vanthorpe correspondence since. Amara still runs Meridian Advisory Group. She still holds the controlling interest in Vanthorpe Enterprises. On her anniversary each year, she takes the gown from the back of the wardrobe still pressed, still wrapped in tissue, and holds it for a moment before putting it back. Not to remember the humiliation, to remember the promise she made in the middle of it. Patricia Vanthorpe had stood in front of 200 people and told the room that Amara Osei-Mensah had arrived in their world with nothing. She had been right about the nothing. She had been catastrophically wrong about what Amara intended to do with it, because the most dangerous person in any room is never the one holding the microphone. It is the one sitting quietly, listening, and already 3 moves ahead.